What is going on, guys? Robert from Robert here with a new video for you guys, and I'm glad to announce that I'm returning to the Devil May Cry fan hate retrospective series that I started about a year ago. So I am back to beat this dead horse. Now, last time on the retrospective, I was talking primarily about the year of 2010, in which case a new Devil May Cry trailer was announced, and then the fans didn't too much care for the redesign, and this is because the redesign looked like a very different Devil May Cry than fans knew. And when the company behind the redesign started to talk, they started to seem a little bit arrogant. And of course, when fans go to Capcom, Capcom insults them because Capcom always insults their fans. It's just what they do. And fans started to worry that the redesign of Dante wouldn't be the major change for Devil May Cry incoming. And of course, any and all criticism was labeled as haters gonna be hating. And here's a timeline of the events that happened in 2010, along with the camps that formed at 2010. Now, enough about 2010. Let's go ahead and step into 2011, where new information will be coming out. And off of the bat, Devil May Cry fans are blamed for low enslaved sales. Now, the link that I got this video from didn't work. However, when I searched it in the search engine, this is what came up. It was an article, in which case they were discussing were Devil May Cry fans partially to blame for Enslaved selling poorly. Now, Enslaved is a title made by Ninja Theory. So they were saying Devil May Cry fans, despite Ninja Theory, made the game sell bad, or something to that extent. And I have some comments here, pulled from the little article or whatever, and I'll let you read through those if you so wish to get a little bit more information about that. So I erroneously said that in March 11, 2011, that Capcom called their fans sheep, but I was mistaken. In fact, this actually happened at the end of 2010, so it should have been in the last video, so that's my bad on that. However, Representative Capcom pretty much said a few sheepish people will sing a different tune once more information about the game is shared. So in other words, this is when Capcom called their fans sheepish, which of course is like saying that they're sheep, or that's how people took it. Now, I'd be intellectually dishonest if I didn't present this counter argument to that, where sheepish and the context that is used is supposed to mean embarrassed. It's not something that's normally said here in America, but maybe outside of America, this is like something that they say. So, what the representative was trying to say was, a few embarrassed people will sing a different tune once more information about the game is shared. Regardless, it looks bad either way, because, one, you have Capcom either saying that the people that are complaining about the game are sheepish, which I would consider of or relating to sheep. Sort of like if you call someone childish, they are acting like a child. With this new one, they're saying that these fans who are complaining are going to be embarrassed once more information is out, which is to say that these fans don't know what they want. Both of these come off as bad, not good PR for a company. It's something that you just shouldn't say, is what I'm saying. Especially since less than a year ago, they said if they did indeed make a Devil May Cry 5, it'll be custom tailored to what the fans want. And the fans, with the initial trailer, are saying that they don't like what they're seeing and they want it to go back to the way that it was. And, well, you know how Capcom was treating them. Since the reveal of this new DmC trailer, fans really just want the old Dante back. And you'll be hearing that sentiment for pretty much the rest of this series. However, people just want to know, what up though? Like, what's up with this new Devil May Cry? What's the gameplay going to be like? And when E3 was coming around, Capcom was like, we might put it at E3, but, you know, don't get your hopes up. So, you know, they were boasting about how awesome this new Rebirth was going to be, but they don't want to show it off at E3 with, the, you know, the new games or whatever. It seems kind of weird. And they scheduled like a producer interview that was going to be live streamed, and, well, something interesting happened, because, well, this.
So, I mean, this is a rebirth of DMC, right? I mean,
yeah, we're calling it a rebirth. Yes, but it is retelling Dante's story from the start. So one shouldn't be using other DMCs necessarily as a template, but for any reboot, you generally want to show the iconic elements of the franchise, and we're committed to doing that.
That's really cool.
Yeah.
So, you know, I'm sure this is something everybody saw because it happens pretty quickly in the trailer. What happens when everything like turns black and white and, you know, Dante almost changes? I mean, what's going on there?
I see your keen powers of observation have been
I've watched the trailer.
Unhurt by 2 days of E3 partying, Sean. Yeah, there's some black and white stuff in there. I think that's all I'm going to say for now. But there'll be other things in that genre that we do as well.
All right. Well, I guess that's about as good as an answer.
I have to be coy.
All right. And so I did notice his hair turns white during that sequence.
Once again, yes, his hair does turn white. That's pretty cool, I thought.
All right. Well, I suppose this is all I can get out of you for it. So, is there anything else that you want to talk about in the trailer or DMC? I mean, being that this is all gameplay, like, I didn't know if you guys would want to touch on anything else in particular that you want people to really think about. Awesome. So, is that going to change the gameplay quite a bit? I mean, how many weapons? I mean, is it a lot of new? I mean,
yeah, we're not ready to talk about numbers of weapons at this point, but I do think it's going to add a noticeable layer of depth. No problem, Sean. You almost got me. I'm a little weak after last night. But yeah, no, it's an additional layer of depth that I think will obviously make the game more interesting through the first playthrough, that you'll just be wanting to switch and use different weapons, mix and match, using some of the new abilities, which I also don't want to talk about, but they will also integrate with combat and traversal and puzzle solving. So it will be a coherent, cohesive experience with a bunch of new gameplay features added in, but still being the game you know. That's a mouthful.
All right. I'm going to go switch it over. I'm going to walk over and see if the chat is working,
cool.
If we can pull any questions from the fans. If there's anything else you guys want to add, if the chat is not working, then feel free to add anything else.
Nothing to add right now.
Let's see here. All right. Looks like we can pull a few from YouTube if we'd like. Here, let's see. Oops. Sorry, guys.
That's right. There was a lot of dead silence moments, and they were really ducking and dodging questions. And, you know, I got to give it to the Devil May Cry fans here. Like, they were trying to get, like, a list of questions together so that they could, like, ask these producers questions and get more information about the new game or whatever. And, well, it was kind of a train wreck a little bit. And this is because they were avoiding certain questions while answering the really easy ones. And one of the questions being asked repeatedly was, is this new Devil May Cry game going to be 30 frames per second, or is it going to be 60 frames per second, as you see here in this post? Now, why is 30 frames per second versus 60 frames per second important? I'm going to explain it to you simply. Hopefully I don't mess up too bad. Pretty much, animation, as you know, is broken into frames. Like, look at this ball bouncing that I made. It looks like crap, I know. But this is just 7 frames of animation. Now, I compare my 7 frames of animation of this ball bouncing to this. Which one looks better? Well, obviously this one, because there's more frames, so you get to really get the illusion that the ball is moving. So, let's say this little box here is equal to 1 second, right? So that would be 0 frames per second, meaning that there are 0 frames in this box for each 1 second. Now, at 15 frames per second, that means that for each second, there are 15 frames, 30 frames per second, 30 frames in 1 second, 60 frames. I think you get the idea here. But But pretty much the more frames per second there are, the less gaps there are in the animation. And it makes it look like it's smooth. I'm pretty sure you've heard that, like when you look at someone, or you hear someone talk about like a new game trailer or gameplay, they're like, yeah, the animation, the gameplay is so smooth. What that means is that it looks smooth or fluid in motion and not like ragged. Like, I'm pretty sure you've seen some cheaply animated videos. Like if you look at a couple of YouTube videos of like home animators or people that don't like have an animation team, you'll see that there's a lot of breaks in animation or whatever. Or you could just go look at an anime show, compare like Dragon Ball Super and how they animate things to the original Dragon Ball or whatever, and you'll see it. Like there's a difference. And this is because the more frames that there are, there's the less gaps, but of course that means that it's going to cost more money. So, you know, games you would think at this console generation will be able to be having 60 frames per second, 1080p by standard. But we still have games that are at 30 frames per second and under 1080p. And, you know, this was an easy question for Capcom to answer because every Devil May Cry made before this was at 60 frames per second on the PlayStation 2. Yes, the PlayStation 2. Devil May Cry 1, along with Devil May Cry 2, known to be the worst in the franchise, by the way. Devil May Cry 3, which is beloved in the franchise. And Devil May Cry 4, mixed bag, best combat in the franchise by far. All of those were at 60 frames per second. However, you're saying that this new game isn't going to be at 60 frames per second? Is this why y'all are ducking this question? Because it seems pretty easy to say. Yes or no would suffice. And here are some other comments that were coming from Devil May Cry fans from the little thread that was made in response to the video or whatever. And frankly, you could tell that like they're just not happy with the reboot, and they kind of feel like they're being ignored. And they felt as though Capcom could have handled this better in order to like push this new game that they're trying to do. And you got to ask yourself, and you really got to ask yourself, why is Capcom ducking this 30 frames per second versus 60 frames per second question? It's like so easy. Because they've been talkative when it comes to insulting the fans when they don't like the new look for Dante. However, when we're talking about a fundamental gameplay mechanic here, they're awfully silent. But you know what they're not silent about? Making a Devil May Cry movie. That's right, they were planning a DmC Devil May Cry movie before the game even came out. Not a single copy of the game had been sold at this point. They only have a new character design, and they are talking about making movies. And that wasn't the only thing they were messing up on. Now, as more information trickled in, we are told that Dante is now half devil and half angel. Absurd, right? Well, if you play Devil May Cry, it's absurd. And if you don't, I'm going to explain why this is a kind of a big deal. And had a lot of Devil May Cry fans like, whoa, Capcom, what are you doing? You're kidding, right? Now, Dante's and Virgil's mother, Ava, is human. Alright? She's a bona fide human, 100%. And, you know, this is pivotal for the story because when she's eventually killed by demons, it affects her two sons in different ways. You know, Dante, he embraces humanity. And then his brother, Virgil, rejected his humanity. And this is something that was explored in Devil May Cry 3. You know, they both got empowered by their Devil Trigger, because it was the first time Dante got his Devil Trigger. But Dante didn't abandon his humanity once he got access to his demonic heritage. And Virgil, on the other hand, abandoned his humanity to want to be a devil like his dad. And this is something that's been established since the reunion in the original Devil May Cry game, where Virgil is not recognizable at all. Well, one, because it's the first game, so you don't know it's Virgil. But if you know the story, you know that Nero Angelo is Virgil. And he doesn't look like Virgil, because he is completely left unrecognizable due to his pursuit of power, or seeking his demon heritage that he rejected his humanity, thus, you know, doesn't have a human face. Also, I find this unrelated, but still kind of interesting. If you have played Marvel vs. Capcom Ultimate, that has Virgil and Dante, Dante's able to do his level 3 attack, which is like his ultimate attack, in either his human form or his devil form. while Virgil, on the other hand, can only do his level 3 in his devil form. So I thought that would be interesting to note there as a cool trivia piece. And you'll also notice some similarities between Dante in Devil May Cry 3 and Nero in Devil May Cry 4. These are two individuals that embrace their humanity despite their demonic heritage. And when they do finally get that empowerment from the heritage that they have from being like part demon, they don't let it consume them. They still want to be human. And, you know, in Devil May Cry 4, there are some humans who are trying to abandon their humanity to become demons. And that's pretty much what Virgil did in Devil May Cry 3. And, you know, they overly relied on their new angelic ascension forms, just like Virgil overly relied on his devil trigger. So, you'll notice in the beginning of Devil May Cry 4 that Dante resists using his devil trigger on Nero when he was getting beat up really bad. Like, his face is getting punched in. And you got to start to wonder as a Devil May Cry fan, is this because he's gotten strong enough not to rely on his devil trigger? In which case, when you look at the cutscenes from Devil May Cry 4, you'll see that he doesn't go devil trigger. He's fighting the savior, a giant statue, in his human form. And what if... And it leads you to wonder, is this what Dante was trying to teach Nero? Not to rely on his demon heritage for power, and that he could be powerful without it. So that Nero doesn't end up like his brother Virgil. And I think there's a little bit of evidence for this because, well, you know, Dante's most hostile towards Nero after the player gains Devil Trigger. In which case, this is where he's a little bit... He seems like he's tired of your stuff a little bit.
What took you so long?
You. What are you doing here? Forget it. I don't have time for this.
And neither do I. So I'll cut to the chase. I'm here for the sword.
Your point being?
It was originally my brother's. Return it to me, and I'll let you go, kid.
Well, that's how you see me think you're blush a pretty pig when I kick your ass!
Oh. Helpful hint. Take a tip from the elders. You cooled off yet, kid? What's the matter? Why the glare?
You look as if you've just been playing me from the beginning.
That sword was used to separate our world from the demons. I can't have something of that kind of power floating around now, can I? It's gotta stay in the family.
I need this.
Then keep it. Now that you're calm and cool, get going.
Because, I mean, Dante could have always taken Yamato by force if he wanted to. But after Nero essentially proved himself, he decided to entrust Yamato to Nero. And this happened after Nero wanted to save Kairi and he wanted to still protect humans. Kind of like what Dante does. Now, remember when that guy said that there'd be a few sheepish people that a single different tune once more information about the game was shared? I heard some comments about that. And And you can kind of see the disconnect that Ninja Theory and Capcom had when they were trying to market Dante, because they want to make the new Dante appeal to, I guess, teenagers? Yeah, teenagers, because he looks like an edgelord, but you'll see that more as we go on in these videos. And this came from Ninja Theory themselves, where they say Dante is more aggressive, angry, and much more of a street brawler. A lot of this is how Dante becomes the way he is and why he's so angry at the world. There's a lot of satire on this game. He's a lot like young people today. No prospects. He's very angry. Did I mention Dante's angry? Did we mention that Dante is like angry? He's angerous now? Okay. Just making sure that you guys know that he's angry. And Ninja Theory went on to say that Devil May Cry skeptics secretly wanted to like the game. Yes. That people that didn't like Dante's redesign or what was presented to them weren't being entirely honest with themselves. And wow, this article here, I'm really just, here, if you want to read it you can, you know, just pause it or whatever, but the stuff being said in this article is a little out there for a game that's not even out yet. And part of this is because Ninja Theory's response to all the criticism that they're getting, valid or not, is a raised hand, palm forwards, and instructions to voice your concern to it because the face ain't listening. AKA, Ninja Theory is not listening to the fan concerns when in regards to Dante and the Devil May Cry franchise. So, I'm pretty sure that's why Devil May Cry fans stopped liking Ninja Theory. Like, that was it. That was just a bad PR move on their part. Because fans were not liking what they had been offered with Ninja Theory's retake on Devil May Cry, their rebirth, if you will. And while this initially started with the character design shown in 2010, now it's the Devil May Cry lore that is also affected, where we're talking about half angel and half demon heritage for Dante, who's been half demon, half human, and arguably that's like his character arc. That's how he develops as a character. But lore aside and aesthetics aside, now we have some gameplay issues because this game is 30 frames per second. And all other games prior to it ran at 60 frames per second. And this is a next-gen release for Devil May Cry, the second one. So really, there's no excuse here. And it becomes obvious why Capcom was ducking that 30 frames per second versus 60 frames. It becomes obvious why Capcom was ducking the 30 frames per second versus 60 frames per second in the interview. Because they knew they messed up. They knew they did. So they're talking about how the DmC Devil May Cry is supposed to take the franchise to new heights. However, it's not able to achieve 60 frames per second like its predecessors on the PlayStation 2. Crazy. And all of that because Capcom was too busy talking about making a Devil May Cry movie for a game that's not even out yet, instead of trying to make their game 60 frames per second. So you can kind of see why fans weren't exactly the most happy with Capcom there. And then Ninja Theory is really not helping because they're coming out with telling that the skeptics secretly want to like the game. And, you know, this stuff was starting to appear to Capcom, or rather they start to get more aware of it. Now, if you take this video from Alex Jones laughing at hair concerns in 2010,
there's always a little bit of controversy, people that don't necessarily want things tampered with. What are some of the most ridiculous accusations or discussions that you've seen regarding DmC?
There was I had like a 4,000 comment thread about why his hair wasn't white.
Is it hard not to want to step in there and go like, oh gosh, you're so wrong about that?
You worked on it for a year and a half to get it to this point, and you have, you know, what you think is a pretty good debut, and then, you know, 90,000 people pile on with, his hair's not white.
And you compare it to this video.
There are demons everywhere, in every level of society, in every part of the world.
Still watching the war, raging fiercely in me. Can I just give in to the feelings within?
Like guns?
はい、というわけで皆さん
プレイさせていただきたいと思います。
はい、じゃあ見どころを
そうですね。
アレックさんから
じゃあアレックスの方から見どころを説明してもらえればと。
So, assuming my man plays up to his capabilities, and he will, because he's amazing, we're going to see from previous DMCs a re-emphasis of, or an emphasis on fighting in the air, aerial combat, being able to pull enemies up, being able to chain between your angel and demon powers fluidly on the move, which is a new addition to this in terms of the amount of time and the ease that we make to be able to spend in the air. So, a lot of aerial combat.
内田さんの遊びがちゃんとうまければの話なんですけど今回注目していただきたいのは今までのシリーズよりもですね今回は空中コンビネーション、空中の戦闘、無知みたいな武器を使って、いろんな技を、リアルタイムでシームレスで、つなぐ、コンバットが、メインになるので、ぜひとも見てください。
I think it went well, actually. It was really satisfying to see people react well to the Inception mechanic. I think people liked it. I think the Dante design went over well. I think the game showed very, very well.
やっぱり緊張はしてたんですけど、今回ですね、みんなのリアクションはなかなかいい感じでしたし、最終的には良かったんじゃないかなと思いました。今回の背景の、リアルタイムの変形などのリアクションも特に良かったので、ちょっと安心しました。
では映像をご覧。
Sorry you couldn't be here. Sorry you missed the presentation. I hope you enjoyed what you're seeing on YouTube. And when the game comes out, please buy it.
東京ゲームショウに聞いていただいた方が、一番ベストだったんですけど、とにかく YouTube で見ていただいてありがとうございました。なかなかいいゲームを作る自信がありますので、ぜひとも期待していてください。
You start to see that Capcom's starting to notice that their fans aren't exactly the most happy with them and their new product. And they have to appeal to them somehow, right? And how do they do this? They decided that the new DmC Devil May Cry will take place in a parallel world with a different Dante. That's right. So instead of, I don't know, just stopping making the game as a Devil May Cry game and spinning it off as an entirely new IP for Capcom that was inspired by Devil May Cry, and then saying, hey, we're going to start working on a real Devil May Cry 5 now, like they did back when Devil May Cry was made from Resident Evil, you know. They just decided, you know what, it's a parallel world, and we're still going to go for it with this game, and it's still going to be Devil May Cry, because they're geniuses. And they have to be, because as they're talking all this noise about DmC Devil May Cry, it was only 30% complete. Yes. This comes from, the link for the video is dead, but I did find this to support this claim. And they said that a Famitsu article said that the game was only 30% complete. And I know now that they spent like a lot of the time just working on Dante's design.
In general, what we want to do is obviously do a reboot, which is a going back to the creation myth of Dante, as it were, and like a lot of meaningful templates that are currently in media, keep what was awesome and compelling about the canon, and then take a certain degree of artistic license with what we think needs to be updated and modernized. So that's the general ethic and point of departure that we started with once we settled on a reboot as the thrust of the game. Well, we've been working on the title for about a year, and it took, actually over a year, and it took about a year and change to get to a look at Dante, which is sort of like phase 1 of DmC development.
And speaking of bullcrap, we also had the time that a writer backed Ninja Theory and called gamers whiny because they didn't let Ninja Theory create what they wanted with Devil May Cry. Although, you know, it's a franchise, so you actually got to work within the franchise, respect the lore, source material, all that stuff. Who cares about that? Obviously, Ninja Theory wasn't allowed to create because the fans were just criticizing them about that franchise they love and spent money on. And they were saying that Capcom and Ninja Theory took the coward's way out in trying to appeal to the fans. And I'm assuming by appeal to the fans, it must have been a parallel world article that was made. And here are some comments. And here are some comments from that little article there, where you'll start to see that the fans are then targeted because this game doesn't really look all that well. Oh yeah, and I have to go ahead and say that one of these guys that were making fun of the Devil May Cry fans there, he was talking about how he was excited for Resident Evil Operation Raccoon City. And this game is like one of the best games I have ever played. And, you know, it went on to be positively received by both fans and critics alike, because everyone loved this game. I think they're working on a sequel, if I'm not mistaken. But yeah, some more comments, and you can start to see why fans really didn't want to support this game. And they were also talking about making Devil May Cry spin-offs. So DmC Devil May Cry was not only supposed to get a movie, but it was also supposed to get spin-offs in other mediums, and they had a forum on Ninja Theory's website asking what mediums would they like fans to have DmC Devil May Cry content created on. And that's pretty much the end of 2011 here. Here's a short timeline for you guys so you can see what was going on this year. Now, where are the camps for this year? Well, some people who are pro DMC were like, game looks amazing. All fans need to stop being entitled and whining about DMC, especially now that Dante has white hair via the trailer. And they are just blindly hating this game. Anti-DMC crowd was like, back in 2010, this was about the hair, but not anymore. So now Dante is an angst-filled teenager who smokes, his sword is a scythe somehow, and he's half angel, half demon. When in the previous games, he was half human and half demon. And now it's 30 frames per second instead of 60 frames per second. Doesn't even seem like Devil May Cry no more. Capcom says it's a parallel universe, so why can't this be its own separate game? And Capcom has insulted us and or possibly called us sheep, or just said we'll be embarrassed once more information comes out because we don't know what we're talking about in regards to the franchise or whatever. And of course, Ninja Theory is blaming Devil May Cry fans for enslaved poor cells. And the great neutral over there was like, hey, let's wait for a demo to be released so we can get our hands on it and play. And you know, Capcom's PR is taking some punishment right now. The fans are really letting them have it. But I'm just letting you know that this isn't done. Oh no. No. We'll be making another video, and it'll be up real soon. So I will be back.